comes to building a custom bike, I'd say no, not everyone can do it. I'm not even sure I can do it, really. But it's going to be fun to try. It's going to be exciting to see if this bike will turn out as cool in real life as it is in my head. And that's a project I'm really excited to get into. Well, the bike I have now is a 1982 Kawasaki KZ750 N1 Spectre. It's a fairly rare bike, and for as old as she actually runs pretty well with a little bit of fine tune. She's running pretty good. I purchased this bike fairly cheaply from a friend of a friend. And this bike was sitting for about 2 years in a shed before it ran again. So the fact that it starts right up is pretty remarkable. When purchasing this bike, I had the idea that I wanted to do something custom with it. So I had a few thoughts. After a few mock-ups, I've decided that I think I'm going to turn this project into more of a brat tracker style of motorcycle. They have vintage styling, but more of an aggressive stance, more so than the Cafe Racer style.
Okay, so starting off in the concept stage of this build, we're starting with a 1982 Kawasaki KZ750 Spectre, and pretty much everything that you see here on this image is what we have with the bike right now. It's strictly stock. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this time to really hash out any ideas we have that we'd like to see on the bike. That way when it comes to production and fabrication, it runs smoothly, and the ideas all seem to meld, and I don't end up with a Frankenstein bike at the end of this, hopefully.
Customizing this bike, I want to do as much as I can. I want to be as hands-on as I can, but I understand that I don't know all the nuts and bolts when it comes to the mechanics of a bike. So I do have a few sources that'll help me with those aspects of the build. That way I don't get the bike on the road and wish that I didn't touch the bike.
This is the overall feel that we like for the bike, and so I think we'll move forward with this this image here. And then from there, we're going to go into a couple programs. What I did was I took a photo of the bike, and I took it into Photoshop, and I started cutting things away and adding things where I would like to see them. Right now, this is kind of just mock. And for instance, we have a couple different tank selections here, and we can kind of turn a few of them on and off to access different looks. This gives me the ability to cut things away as I see fit. So when it comes to the front end of this bike, the quickest and easiest way to really dramatically change the stance of a bike is simply by changing the handlebars. And that was actually the first thing we did when we got the bike. Previously, we had these big, ginormous moto bars on there, and they weren't comfortable for one, and they didn't look good secondly. So we got rid of those, and we went with more of a flat track style handlebars. So the riding style is a bit more traditional, and it feels really nice. You can really lean into the turns with these bars and things like that. So that was the first step. All the hardware normally fit back on pretty easily. The only thing we had to do was, once we got the new bars, we lost a lot of real estate. So we had to move the turn signals from where they were originally mounted on the handlebars down to the triple tree. And when we did that, The stock turn signals weren't functional anymore, so we actually went ahead and put new turn signals on front and back, just to keep them unified and looking similar. Eventually, the master plan for this is these ginormous gauges here will probably go. We'll probably simplify the entire head here and go with a lot, maybe 2.5-inch gauges. Remove all this junk here because that doesn't need to be there. Probably streamline our controls because these are a little bulky and old, and everything's kind of faded. I could probably restore them, but I might just go ahead and get new. I don't know yet. And also, we're going to probably get a smaller headlight. This one is, I actually like the way this one looks, and it works very well for how old it is, but it is very large, and I feel when the gauges are reduced in size, the headlight might not flow. So we might change up the headlight for a newer, smaller LED version. And that's really it for the front end. We might drop the front end too. This front end actually has already been dropped since the original off the factory line model. But we might go a little bit lower, just to kind of give the lines of this bike an even a straighter line than what they are now. And what I decided on was we're gonna stick with the standard. It's like a maroon burgundy color is what the tank is now, with the accent of black and gold. Right now the tank is black with an accent of burgundy and gold, and I want to switch that. I want the main color to be a very vibrant burgundy, and I want the accent to be black and a pinstripe of gold. Now when it comes to the back end of this motorcycle, there's a couple different ways we're going to go about it. These yellow strips here, painter's tape, were actually to indicate where the body was going to be chopped, where the fender or frame was going to be chopped. And this back hoop here, you're either going to get a new hoop that was a bit more rounded, or just stick with this squared off one here and move it forward. And that would bring the whole back end, at least 6-7 inches forward when it's all said and done and retacked together. And that would just give it a cleaner profile from the side, or from the side view. But I think we're actually going to scrap that idea, because I don't want to do a whole lot of cutting into the frame in case somebody down the road wants to restore it back to the way it originally looked. So what we came up with is we're going to extend the seat to where these tapes are now, and then from here on out, instead of cutting the frame, we'll actually install a luggage rack back here as well, with some saddlebags. That'll square it off, and won't make it it won't make the back end look so empty, since we're not going to be pulling it forward. But that'll eliminate a lot of the cutting that we have to do. The only thing we might have to do is cut this tab here from the frame, a couple other little tabs down here that aren't necessary anymore, and this bracket here might be lowered to be parallel with the frame itself. That way the fender isn't floating so high. But that should be the only cuts that we're going to make on this frame as of right now. I'd like to think by next springtime we can have her looking similar to that. I don't know if she'll be finished, but she'll definitely be different looking.
I am so far from being done with this bike. I'm still in the infant stages of this project that I can't even say if I can do it, really. But it's a really fun experience just to try.
Build is yet to begin, but the concept is there, which is exciting. So from that point, we'll move on to the actual fabrication of the pieces. when it came to naming the bike, because I think every project should have a name, it was actually pretty tough coming up with a name. But the bike itself right now is just, it was sitting in a barn for 2 years, maybe longer, prior to me coming across it. So it was just grimy and dusty and dirty, and it's just got a real rough edge to it right now. So the name Grit just automatically popped in my head when I was playing around with cleaning the bike up and coming up with ideas as to what the bike could look like. And when the concept started to come together, we're planning on dropping the front end of this bike and maybe shortening up the rear suspension. So that's going to give it a nice low stance, and it's just going to look like a mean, dirty little bike. So a Grit just felt right. But a Grit is just, it didn't have a nice enough flow to it. And being that the bike is not from 1982, 82 Grit kind of sounded, fun. The wordplay of like the grit of sandpaper, there is no such thing as an 82 grit sandpaper, but it would be very coarse if it was, so I think it just worked. So we're going to stick with, as of right now, the project is named 82 Grit.